All right, in week 5, we have a major research paper due, and to find the directions, click on the week 5 link, then click on Final Film Critique. That'll take you to the directions. Now, make sure that you follow the directions very carefully for this assignment. Now, one of the things that you're asked to do is you're supposed to write a critical analysis of an American feature film of your choosing. And this is supposed to be 8 to 10 pages. Now, those 8 to 10 pages don't include the cover page and any reference pages. So the cover page should be your first page. Then you'll have 8 to 10 pages where you're critiquing the film, and then you'll have a reference page or pages. So at the bare minimum, when you submit this paper, you're going to have at least 10 pages that you submit and maybe 12 or more. So anything less than that is not fulfilling the requirement of the assignment. Now, when you analyze your film, you have to cover these areas in your paper, and I would suggest that you devote at least one paragraph each one of these items. Now, first of all, before you deal with any of these issues, the very first paragraph that you write needs to be an introductory paragraph. The introductory paragraph will introduce your paper and will also contain, as its last sentence, the thesis statement for the entire paper. The thesis statement is going to talk about the various areas that you're going to discuss in your paper, and also the point that you want to make as a result of discussing these areas. So before you discuss any of these things in your paper, storytelling, acting, cinematography, and so on, you have to have an introductory paragraph, and that introductory paragraph has to contain, at the end of that paragraph, a thesis statement that talks about the areas that you're going to discuss in your paper. After you've written your introductory paragraph, then you're going to talk about storytelling. Storytelling is not summarizing the movie. Storytelling has to do with things like, is the movie presented in chronological order? Is the movie presented in nonlinear order? A movie like Pulp Fiction. Please note that storytelling is not summarizing what happens in the movie. It's how the movie's story is presented, not what the story is. You'll also talk about acting. Are the actors character actors? Are they wild card actors? Are they star actors? You'll talk about cinematography. You'll talk about how the film was edited. You'll talk about sound in the film, sound effects, dialogue, exciting music. You'll talk about the style and directing in the film. You'll talk about the impact of society on the film and the impact of the film on society. In this, it's probably, given that you're going to have to discuss the impact of society on the film and vice versa, it's probably a good idea to select a film that's more sophisticated. You might want to discuss something that's won some awards, like a movie like Philadelphia, or a movie like To Kill a Mockingbird, that's had some impact on society. Also, you need to discuss the genre of your movie. Is it a Western? Is it a science fiction movie? Is it a horror movie? And you also might want to compare your movie to some other movies in the genre. Is your movie like other movies of its genre, or does it defy the expectation? Think about your discussion posts. Films like Dead Man with Johnny Depp. It looks like a Western, but Johnny Depp does things in that film that are not typically what you would find in a Western. And then finally, you're going to have to apply at least one sort of literary approach to the analysis and interpretation of your film. And you're going to have to discuss overall textual themes in the film. Does the film talk about good versus evil, justice versus injustice? These are themes that you might see in your movie, in your film. So each one of these areas, you need to spend at least one paragraph discussing each of these areas. Every paragraph needs to be a minimum at the bare minimum 3 sentences, and probably more like 6 or 7 sentences. All of these are areas that you have to cover in your paper. And for every area that you don't cover, you'll probably lose about a letter grade. So every one of these areas that you don't cover is probably going to cost you at least a letter on your grade. Make sure that you cover them. Also, make sure that you select a film that you haven't discussed in class yet, that you haven't written about yet. As I already mentioned, you have to have a thesis statement in the introductory paragraph of the paper that's going to contain a claim that you intend to prove. Also, you want to use reputable film critics to back up the points that you're making. Don't get film reviews from just random people who post film reviews on like the Internet Movie Database or those sorts of things. You want reputable film critics like Roger Ebert, Rex Reed, those sorts of folks, and not some random person who posts a movie review or some comment about a movie on the internet. That is not reputable film criticism. Note also, as I mentioned before, that you're only supposed to talk about the plot of the movie to support major points in the paper. You're only supposed to use about a couple of sentences of plot summary when you're talking about the technical elements in your film. Okay, this is not a paper where you're supposed to summarize the movie. You're supposed to analyze the movie. You're not supposed to summarize. So make sure that you read the directions carefully. We've already talked about the introductory paragraph and those sorts of things. Make sure that your paper contains a concluding paragraph. The concluding paragraph is not the paragraph on overall textual themes. This is not the concluding paragraph. A concluding paragraph summarizes the entire paper. And the concluding paragraph talks about, sort of restates your thesis, and then gives the readers food for thought. So you're supposed to bring this, the concluding paragraph brings your paper to a close. And make sure that you look at the grading rubric for the paper. These are the things that you're going to be graded on. And if you don't have these things in your paper, then you're going to lose points. So you have to have an analysis of storytelling. That is about 10% of the grade. You have to analyze acting in the film. That's about 10% of the grade. You have to analyze cinematography. You have to analyze editing. You have to analyze sound. That's about 5% of the grade. You have to analyze style and directing. That's about 10% of the grade. You have to discuss impact of society on the film. Another 10% of the grade. You have to analyze the film's genre. You have to apply at least one approach to analysis and interpretation of the film. You have to discuss textual themes in the film. If you leave these things off, you're basically losing about a letter grade for every one of these areas that you don't discuss. So make sure that you do all of those things. Make sure that your paper has an introductory paragraph. Make sure that your paper has a concluding paragraph. So make sure that you look at the grading rubric for the assignment. Read over this very carefully, because everything that you leave out will cost you anywhere from half a letter to a full letter. Please be sure to read the directions very carefully. This paper is 1/4 of your grade for the entire course. So 25% of your entire grade for the course is writing on this paper. Also, please be sure to incorporate suggestions from your draft that you wrote in week 3. The paper that you wrote in week 3 was a rough draft for this paper. Make sure to check out any notes that I made on that initial draft. The week 3 paper was setting you up for the week 5. I hope this helped.